4:35. Okay, I think that we can start now. It's just about 11:30. It's 11:34. I was waiting for more to get in. I see they're slowly trickling in. But good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to Faith in a Fractured Nation, continuing the conversation. My name is Pamela Frazier, and I am with the West Palm Beach Mental Health Coalition and a member of the steering committee for Palm Beach County's Action Alliance for Mental Health. This event is being sponsored by the Boca Raton Promise Organization, who provided the Zoom platform that we are working from today. And please note, May is Mental Health Awareness and Trauma Informed Care Month. So I've got my green on, and I hope everyone else can join in. So why are we here? On April 15th, we explored several factors affecting the livelihood of our communities. We talked about COVID, nationalism, economic inequality, and mental health, which quite frankly is our focus today. By way of roundtable sessions, we will identify issues and subsequently engage mental health professionals to partner with faith leaders to further assist them in connecting with their respective congregations. The focus, or our focus for today, is on strengthening our community through unity and collaboration by partnering with the Palm Beach County Action Alliance for Mental Health. It is important that a co-responsibility is established among the units, the faith leader, the mental health provider, and the congregant. This is our purpose. For our listening audience, or those of you who are participants, we ask that you keep yourself muted during the presentations, and please place all questions in the chat. If you are a member of the clergy or a mental health provider, and you would like for us to be in touch with you, please add your contact information to the chat or message me directly at Pamela Frazier. Now, I would like for Reverend Collins, Renee Collins, to introduce our speaker moderator for today.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Our speaker and moderator today will be the Reverend Dr. J.R. Thicklin. He received his bachelor's in ministry from Southeastern Theological Seminary and an honorary doctorate degree from Logos University in Jacksonville, Florida, and is currently in pursuit of a doctorate in philosophy. He is the president and CEO of Destiny by Choice, where he is empowering lives impacted by domestic violence and related abuse. He is a strong advocate and in the plight to end domestic violence and fatherlessness, addressing and raising awareness of domestic violence for over 25 years has been a part of his mission. He has worked tirelessly for domestic violence centers, teaching, making presentations, and educating students in middle schools, high schools, colleges, and universities. He is a member of the State of Florida Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team and Palm Beach County's Sexual Assault Response Team. He is considered an expert. His vast knowledge, passion, and charismatic delivery have made him a sought-after speaker nationally, locally, globally. He serves as the president of the Palm Beach County Clergy Alliance and is the lead director of the African American Domestic Peace Project in West Palm Beach, Florida, and is the co-author of Speaking of Faith, Domestic Violence Program in African American Churches, in which he collaborated with the Institute on Domestic Violence in African American Communities out of the University of Minnesota. In addition, he has developed and framed the Clergy Toolkit on domestic and sexual violence in his collaboration with the Palm Beach County Assault Response Team, SART. Please welcome Dr. Reverend J.R. Thickling, our moderator and speaker.
Well, thank you and good morning. Thank you so much, Reverend Collins, to Pam Frazier and the West Palm Beach Mental Health Association, to the Action Alliance, to all of you that have make up this audience today. I'm grateful and honored to be here for such a great discussion as we continue. To our fellow clergy and all of you that are on, our educators and those from universities, I want to commend each and every one of you for being a part of this mission today. It's a great honor, as this is a continuation of a discussion that was held on April 15th, when we began this conversation about faith in a fractured nation. I do want to say, by way of probably just a little edit, inside of the work that we have done and that we continue to do is our commitment to social justice work, dismantling racism, those things that are very necessary, our plight and even addressing human trafficking and sexual trafficking. What are these things? What does all of these things have in common that make up my life work and perhaps the life work of many clergy? It's the fact that it involves humanity. It involves some of the most trying challenges and things that affect humanity as a whole. As we begin this journey today, I just want to reiterate the fact that when we talk about faith in a fractured nation, we have to ask ourselves a question: in what connotation are we speaking? Are we saying that the role of faith in a fractured nation, or do we need faith in a fractured nation, or do we have faith in a fractured nation? And I believe that there's answers to each and every one of those, because we must first be able to identify what makes our nation fractured. Humanity seems to be fractured in these days because of the many different plights and different things that are happening to us. Right now, we're in the midst of a global pandemic, which affects us on many different levels, definitely in the way of health-wise and medical-wise, and yet it also affects us emotionally, spiritually. Many of us as clergy have found ourselves with the challenges during this time of being able to comfort families as we once upon did. Balance between complying with CDC regulations and oftentimes trying to jump hurdles with state regulations in order to do what we do best, and that is to service the people that we've been called to serve. We have found ourselves inside of dealing with services and memorial services and funerals for those that have lost loved ones. We have found ourselves in a hybrid mode. It hasn't always allowed us to give our full expression. Many times, people that was well deserving of great honor and of a real homegoing service, it's been compromised because of just trying to stay safe. We found ourselves during these times dealing with the height of anger and the brokenness of a country, and between racism and the pandemic, and between economic disorder and chaos. We have found ourselves with challenges as well. Found ourselves in a position that we recognize that our nation is probably as fractured as it's ever been. Our faith remains intact. Our faith to believe that good still triumph over evil. I believe that at the end of the day, by this will all men know that we are disciples, is by the love that we have for one another. Our faith once again teaches us the fact that we are our brother's keeper. So how do we maintain, in the midst of all these things, how do we maintain the mission and yet balance out all the things that is required of us? That we must not give in to the evils of this world. It means that we still have a responsibility of being both salt and light. Salt of the earth. For if the salt has lost its savor or its influence, it's therefore good for nothing. But I wouldn't dare call any of you good for nothing because we know that we're good for something. And so if it's lost and saved, it's good for nothing. But there's another part of our Holy Writ that says the fact that we are the light of the world, a city that cannot be hidden. So what does that mean? That light means that light only shines its brightest in the darkest hours. It's in some very dark hours in many ways. It requires our light. But I want to be very careful to make you aware of that. It's not required our tail light. It's required that we be headlights. That through our faith that we will continue to march forward. That through our faith that we will continue to build bridges. Through our faith, we'll begin to tear down the walls that continue to separate, divide us from the one language that we all can speak, and that's love and compassion. Through our faith, we recognize the fact that faith can heal, that faith can be the beginning of bringing things together. So as I close this part, I want you to know that inside of talking about a fractured nation, it's important to understand when a bone is broken, it's not just fractured, it's broken. In order for that bone to be healed, it must have care. It must have care. It must have the attention that is needed to it, because anything broken means that there's been a discontinuation of the wholeness of what it is. Through our faith, we know that we bring back, we're able to, if you would, bring reconciliation back to this nation, back to families. The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. And then aside acknowledging all that, in the spirit of Mental Health Awareness Month, we understand this, that we must spread messages of hope. We must be part of vehicles of hope and restoration. So I close with saying that part of my Holy Writ says to me this: be anxious or careful for nothing, but by prayer and supplication and with thanksgiving, make our requests known unto God. And my favorite part of that scripture goes on to say, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding shall keep our hearts and our mind through Christ Jesus. Welcome again this morning to Faith in a Fractured Nation.
Thank you. Okay, well, the next part on our the next part of our program would be the self-introduction of the panelists that Dr. Thicklin will be moderating for or with. So Dr. Thicklin, would you like to call them one by one, and then we can start talking, find out who's here. I believe everyone is online. I just haven't heard from Rabbi Rosencrantz as of yet.
Okay.
I'm here.
All right.
Oh, you are here. Excellent.
Absolutely. Well, that is great.
Well, you got a full house.
So with that being said, I am going to call for each one of our panelists today to do, if you could give us a 2-minute self introduction of who you are. And I'm simply going to go by the way that is listed here. Started with the Reverend Jordan Smith of Memorial Presbyterian Church.
Good morning, well, early afternoon to everyone. My name is Jordan. I'm a pastor at Memorial Presbyterian Church. I'm originally from Edinburgh, Scotland, so the far northeast of the United States. I've been in the country for nearly 7 years now, actively involved in lots of social justice initiatives, pastoral counseling, and a pleasure to see lots of familiar faces on this call. Anytime I'm on a call with Dr. Thicklin, I always feel radically underdressed. So I may turn off my screen and put on a tie and a jacket for my Sunday best. But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I look forward to the discussion.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend George Smith. Now, let me say something to you. That's my friend. And believe me, he says that all the time. But I'm so glad to have him with us. He brings such a great perspective on things. Thank you once again. Our next panelist, I've had the opportunity to be with him once before, and I'm looking forward to really nurturing our relationship, is that of none other than Rabbi Andrew Rosencrantz from Temple Beth Torah.
Good afternoon. I think it's afternoon. No, good morning For 12 more minutes, everybody. Yes, I'm Rabbi Rosenkranz. I'm actually beaming in from Tampa, where I'm visiting with my mother, brought the grandkids for the first time in a year and a half. So it's nice to be able to do
Awesome.
that.
Awesome.
I'm from Tampa, did my undergraduate at Tulane in New Orleans. Then I went to law school, practiced for a few years, got the calling, became a rabbi, lived in Jerusalem for 2 years. I then ran the Florida office of the Anti-Defamation League for 7 years before I took a pulpit. Now I'm at Temple Beth Torah in Wellington.
Awesome. Thank you, Rabbi. Really appreciate you being with us today. Our next panelist is another individual that I've had the opportunity to know for a few years. Absolutely incredible individual, and you will find that out real soon. That's none other than Pastor Winsome McLean of Bread of Life International Fellowship Church of God.
Thank you so much, Dr. Strickland and Ms. Frazier and everyone. It's such an honor to be with you today. My name is Winsome McLean. I am the co-pastor at Bread of Life Church of God, where I pastor with my husband. I am also the CEO of Soul Care Institute, LLC, where I provide therapeutic services as a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the state of Florida. I'm also on staff at FAU and just has been newly appointed as the Assistant Director of Racial Diversity and Inclusion in our CAPS program. So it is an honor to be with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pastor McLean. And our last panelist that's with us today is none other than Reverend Paul Rasmus of St. Patrick's Episcopal Church. Welcome this morning.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'm glad to be here. Yes, I'm an Episcopal priest. I was ordained back in 1977 and have been retired for the past 2 years. Served in parishes from Key West to Jupiter. My last position was at St. Andrews in Lake Worth, and right now, even retired, I'm helping out at St. Patrick's Episcopal Church in West Palm Beach, Florida. I suppose I would say about myself, jack of all trades and master of none as a parish priest. So you learn a little bit of everything and depend on other experts to help in areas where I fall short. I have a particular care for social justice, and for many years have been involved in peace, people engaged in active community effort here in Palm Beach County, and also very much connected to the recovery community of alcoholics and drug addicts in this area, and have a heart for those who suffer from addiction. So again, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give all of our panelists a hand. We're so grateful to have them here with us today. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get into our questions today, and I'm going to frame our questions, and only that we'll have time to pace it so that we will have other questions at the end of our time together. I am going to give you 2 minutes to answer the question. If, of course, if you're in the midst of a real good answer, we'll give you some grace there to continue. But at the effort of trying to really get in, because we have about 8 or 9 questions here, and I want to make sure that we get a chance to answer it. So as you prepare this today, and I'll tell you in what order I want you to answer this as I give you the question. We know in this fractured nation, the times that we're living in now is more challenging than most of us have seen in our lifetime. And as was said earlier, we all recognize that in order to do our work effectively, we can't do it in silos alone. So with that being said, we recognize that in the midst of this time that we have seen an increase in not only things such as alcoholism, abuse, we've seen an increase in many things due to stressors and factors that has impacted us. So my question to you is, do you have a contact for any recovery services such as Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Al-Anon meetings? Do you have a contact for any recovery sources, including AA, NA, or Al-Anon meetings? And I'm going to start that question to be answered by Reverend Jordan Smith, followed by Rabbi Andrew Rosencrantz.
And thank you for the introduction. And I do definitely think that there has been a significant uptake in folks who have been sober and have unfortunately relapsed. There are long wait lists for rehabilitation centers. South Florida is in fact a hub for recovery. There are more recovery centers here in this stretch of South Florida than pretty much any other part of the country. And that being said, that means that West Palm Beach and places like Delray are recovery hubs. And I would encourage people, there are the wonderful world of apps. There's an app called Pink Cloud, which will use your location to give you all the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or any meetings within a radius. And the church where I'm a pastor, we host a couple of meetings a week. I know there are several places where there are outdoor meetings, and there are places that are called clubhouses where you can go. There's one local to us called the Triangle Club, which is on Old Okeechobee Road. And so, yeah, I think it is an incredibly important part of thing. And I think as clergy, we need to know in what areas we can help and in what areas we need to defer to people who have better expertise than us. And I have friends and colleagues who have been helped by Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know if I have a congregant that is struggling, yes, I will pray for them. Yes, I'll give them pastoral counseling, but I also say, call this person, go and do this thing. And I think it's an important thing for us as clergy to acknowledge is that we have specific skill sets, but we got to know when our skills reach their limit. And for things that are like alcoholics and narcotics abuse, that can lead to people dying readily and on our streets today. So we need to know and be very careful that what we say our congregants take with a lot of weight. And if we say, I as a pastor, I as a rabbi bless and encourage you to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, that would be an encouraging thing to do.
Thank you so very much inside of that. Let me ask you, could you repeat that app again? Was it Pink Cloud or Pink Clout?
Pink Cloud, like the ones we see in the sky sometimes here. Not quite clout, but yeah, that's the accent. That's my Brooklyn accent kicking in. Pink Cloud, yeah.
Well, thank you so very much. Rabbi, if you would, same question.
Sure, thank you. And this is actually a point for the Jewish community that's been very difficult for us over the last 15, 20 years. Stereotypically, and of course it's a stereotype, so take that as an understanding, but stereotypically, the Jewish community has never fully engaged in the past with issues of domestic violence, recovery, or mental health in those areas because, not because it doesn't exist, but simply because it has always been a hush-hush kind of thing in the Jewish community. Don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Jewish people don't do that in their community, so it doesn't exist. And of course, we've all come around within the last 15 or 20 years to understanding that that's just simply not the case, and we do ourselves more damage. So recently, there have been services available that